Terry, please call the roll.
Mitchell,
Here.
Flores-Kell,
Here.
Zuniga,
Here.
Bradshaw, Parsley,
Here.
Tobias.
Here.
All right, 5 members present. We have a quorum. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to mayor and council. We also ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit that to either myself or the city secretary. I do not have any who have filled out up to this point. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward? All right.
My name is Lila Knight. I'll fill out a form in a minute. I just have a quickie thing to say. You know, the downtown master plan was discussed or there was a public hearing previously at P&Z, and everyone is having a whole lot of trouble finding it on the website. Right now, it's kind of really embedded down into the agenda of the P&Z meeting, and if we could put that in the planning docs or somewhere else where it's a little bit easier to find, we sure would appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? Come on, Ms. Chapa.
I spoke at the P&Z, and I was concerned about the master plan, and most of my complaint is parking. And one of the pictures that's there shows the building next door here. And my concern with the parking is that if we come daily and see the police around the police, that they're crowded as far as parking. And the plan on of that building, that picture, is like 3 stories. So I'm wondering if the parking is crowded now, what is it going to be like when it's a 3-story? Because it's going to take a lot of staff. And I know that in the plans, as far as the restaurant across the Krug's building, the parking, I'm concerned about. We see the picture, but we never see how much space is on parking. And I know that when a business starts going, there'll be staff that'll be working. And staff normally takes a lot of, you've got cooks, waiters, you know, just overall, at least 10 to 15 people, I would say, if it's a big eating place, and that's my concern. Another concern that I have is, and it hasn't been just now, it's been, I had a clipping here of the newspaper and invitations from a former council member and a town meeting. And those, we couldn't reach out to people to come to the meetings. And the survey that was done for these master plan, I saw very few people at the City Hall the Krug Center. I saw very little people there, a very small amount of people there. And I'm just wondering, how do we reach out to people? I just don't understand. I know that when the former council member that made a meeting, he sent these little invitation to people, and I don't think very many went to it, other than I passed some, and the majority of the people that showed up for that town meeting, it was very few. And I think that this one was done from the city, and when some interns passed out this flyer, it just went 2 blocks from Center Street on north and south, 2 blocks south. So I don't understand what is considered Old Town. I never found out what is the boundaries, and that's been my concern. Is when this town hall meeting that we had, there might have been 60 people, because I have your opinion that you had in the newspaper, Mayor, and so I was just concerned. Oh, I forgot to give my name, Evangelina Chapa. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Chapa. All right, that's all the forms. Well, actually, I don't have any forms. That's all the comments so far. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close comments period. It's now closed. Next up, agenda item number 1, presentations from qualified executive search firms regarding their proposals for the purposes of recruiting and assisting in the hiring of the city manager. I believe the both applicants that we have that are coming forward to present are virtual. The thought was to have them give their presentations in full, and then if we had some, clarifying questions about the nature of their proposal, maybe we could ask those, but to keep the questioning real simple, and then we would go into executive session to consult with legal for a minute, and then we would come back out and be able to deliberate further. Are there any objections to that plan? All right, Mr. Hendrix.
Mayor, Council, for the record, Jerry Hendrix, Interim City Manager. Just to give you a quick rundown of the process so far, the council on September 20th issued direction to staff to issue an RFP and to bring back the top 2 candidates from that selection. The RFP was posted on October 19th, and the responses were due on November 3rd. We received 4 responses. That would be Affion, Strategic Government Resources, Tilly Baker, and JG Consulting. The staff panel, consisting of myself and Assistant City Manager Amber Lewis, reviewed these. I want to say publicly thank you to all 4 of the companies that responded to us. They were all great responses and proposals. Any of the 4 could probably do what we're asking to be done, but we rejected to bring back 2. So we brought back the top 2. We're very excited about the strength of their proposals and the opportunity each of them can bring to you. Those top 2 is Affion and Strategic Government Resources. We have from Affion virtually tonight Scott Riley, who's the president, and he's ready right now to give you his presentation for their proposal. After Affion will be SGR with Jennifer McFadden, their Chief Operating Officer, and Lynn Barbosa, their Senior Vice President. Scott, are you ready? Scott. Scott's been having some technical problems with our virtual platform this evening. Let's go ahead and start with representatives from Strategic Government Resources. Scott, are you there? Can't hear you, Scott.
Make sure you're connected to audio.
How about now?
All right. So, it's all yours, Scott.
All right. Thank you very much. Apologize for my technical difficulties, and thank you, Council, for inviting me to present on this important search for you all. My name is Scott Riley. I am the CEO of Affion Public. We're an executive search firm that I started in 2009. To give you a little bit of background about our search process, what I'd like to do is just kind of walk through what we consider the important elements of a good search. And that starts with you all first. The most important thing for us is to be able to sit down with you, all of the council members, and get a feeling and understanding about what you're looking for in your next city manager. So that's individually meeting with each of you. After that, we would ask that you provide us a list of stakeholders. Stakeholders are in every community are different, so they could be your civic leaders, they could be your faith-based leaders, they could be your business leaders, anything and everyone in between. Our goal is to meet with as many folks as we can on the front side so that we can understand what the city needs, what the community wants, and build that profile. So once we get that profile built, we will bring it back to you for approval. we'll go through all of the editing and everything that we need to go through with you all to get the approval for that. From there, we will start our recruitment process. So, I tell people the city managers, there's no city manager school, right? So you can get an MPA, you can do all that stuff, but based on that profile building that we work with you all on, you might say, hey, we really want somebody to improve our infrastructure in Kyle, or we're really interested in somebody with a strong economic development background, or whatever those areas might be. So we're going to work with you all on understanding what those specific needs are, and then that's how we're going to go out and recruit. There's no magic in what we do. I tell people this all the time. I mean, we are a recruiting company. We're going to build a target list of folks and pick up the phone and call them. And we're going to use all the technology that's available out there. I mean, we have a recruiting database, software database, applicant tracking system that we're going to use. But it's really just our relationships and being in this business for, since 2005, for me personally, 2009, since I've owned this company, that brings the strength to the table. After that, our recruiters are going to go through the recruiting process. So each candidate's going to go through at least 3 rounds of interviews with Affion people. We're going to understand their backgrounds, what's motivating them to get there, what some of their ideas are, and see where that match comes up. Ultimately, if they make it through the 2 rounds of interviews, they're going to get an assignment from us. That assignment's going to be a written document. It's going to be a 1-page bio about themselves. We tell them they don't get to meet you in person for the first time, so what do they want you to know? Secondly, after that, we ask them to write, in their words, why their interest in the position in Kyle. And then the last piece is really to be determined based on what we find out of these stakeholder meetings, so the backgrounds and skills from there. So all that written material ultimately gets packaged up. There's a final round of interview that I do. I screen any final candidate that goes before you. I'm interviewing them. So I will do that final round of interview and make a determination kind of who the top candidates to move forward to Kyle are. Our goal is to present somewhere between 6 and 8 candidates. And ultimately to have you work through the narrowing down of that process. And then we'll be there to facilitate the interview process. And there's lots of different options that we can work through. And so we'll be here to present to you kind of what we think the best practices are for an interview, but certainly we can customize it to whatever Kyle wants to do and how that would work. So we're with you all the way from beginning to end to the point in time that, you make an offer and you get a hire and the person starts. So that is the 10,000-foot view of what we do. And so I thought I would just kind of turn it over to the council to ask specific questions if you have any.
All right, thank you, Mr. Riley. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant at this time? Councilmember Tobias.
Yes, I have 2, and it'll be the same with the others. So to be fair on that end. So my first question would be, what is your process for screening and locating candidates that will be the best fit for our city? And the second question is, what is the time interval in which you will conduct these searches on a daily and weekly basis?
Sure. So the screening process is really going to be based on the things that we pull out of the profile development. So we don't know what those are right now, but let's just say it's economic development. Every city wants somebody that can help develop the city in some fashion or form. So the screening tools will be behavioral-based interview questions that we ask candidates based on, what's your experience in dealing with, new development, what's your experience dealing with redevelopment, what's your experience dealing with TIFs and TERs and all the tools that are needed for economic development. So we're going to ask them specific questions about that. They're also going to be writing those to you. So they're going to be providing that in written form to you about what their experience in those specific areas that are important for you all, that you determine are important for you all for the hire. So roughly our timeline works like this. Once we get the approval of the brochure, we will post that job, and we'll post it in everywhere from the top to the bottom. So everybody will know that the Kyle opportunity is available. We will post it for 30 days. Once the posting closes, 45 days after that posting closes, I will be in front of you with your 8 candidates. So that's our deliverable to you. The interviews happen obviously all along that time. So as candidates come in and flows come in, we're starting them through that process. And a lot of times we get asked the question, well, why does it take, 30 days after 45 days after the posting closes? Why does it take so long? Well, let me talk you through that. A lot of candidates won't apply till the end, the last day. I don't know. They think that they're at the top of the pile. I'm not sure what it is, but we get that. So we can't start the process till then with them in terms of walking them through. So getting them scheduled for 3 rounds of interviews, giving them 1 week to do that written material, reviewing that information, conducting criminal education, financial background checks on everybody, and doing all the reference checks. All of that work is done before they ever get presented to you as a candidate. In addition, we run a separate social media search called PPI. It's outsourced. We outsource it to a third-party company, but that runs their background through all social media. So we have a report of anywhere that they've ever been in the news, whether it's the newspaper, TV, anything along those lines. So that's our overall timeline. I'd be glad to answer any other questions you have.
Just one follow-up on your answer, top to bottom, and then going back to the original, is the process of screening and locating. So would this be a nationwide search or just state? What would be your process there?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Yeah, we believe this is a nationwide search in my mind. Unless you tell us something differently from a from a profile standpoint. In other words, you might say, listen, we want somebody that is part of TCMA or something along those lines. Our database and our reach, I mean, we work across the country as it is right now. I mean, we've got work in Montana and Idaho and Colorado and Texas and Pennsylvania and Florida. So we're a national company, and we believe that there's just not borders anymore, to be honest with you. And so the tools that we'll use, we'll publish this on ICMA, and we'll publish it on LinkedIn and TCMA and TML. It'll go on NFBPA, the National Forum of Black Public Administrators. It'll go in the International Hispanic Network. Just to kind of name a few, it'll get out to all those different things. So yes, it'll be a national reach.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions?
I was hoping to wait till the end.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask one question is, are you open to tailoring that search based on the desires of the council? So if the council said, we want you looking more for, out of state versus in state, or, those kind of things, is that something that you do, is sort of tailor the search based on council feedback?
That is exactly what we do. So, from my standpoint, that's what I'm saying. When our reach is nationally. Obviously, we've done a ton of work in Texas. I believe that, truthfully, Texas, has probably the strongest city management form of government in the country. But that being said, there are certain things that we can do through the stakeholder meetings to derive, what's important to you all. Okay. And that may be saying, hey, listen, we want somebody that understands that, or we don't.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to ask any questions at this time? Councilmember Parsley.
So I was just reviewing the backup material, and I see that you have one of the biggest cities that you have hired as city managers for, like Arizona, which has like 270,000 for Chandler. And then you have Johns Creek in Georgia with 84,000. And that will be in 2020, and then in Oregon, 53,000. So most of the cities I see, or maybe I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, have lower, like a smaller population.
I believe you're looking at, we haven't done Jones Creek, Georgia.
Okay. We're talking to SGR, correct? Oh, oops, sorry, I apologize for
That's
that.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know
Wrong
where they've
material.
done work. They know where we've done work. It's okay.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and switch over to SGR then? Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Is this our only chance to ask
Mayor,
questions?
do I stay on the line?
Yes, the plan is we're going to hear from SGR. We might have a couple follow-up questions for them, and then we're going to go into executive session and have a conversation. And then when we come back out, we may be looking to have further conversation. So you just have to hang with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
All right, next is Jennifer Fadden and Lynn Barbosa with SGR, and they have a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to load up on screen for you. Lynn and Jennifer.
Hi, good evening. I hope you can see our presentation there on your end. I'm Jennifer Fadden. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for SGR, and thank you so much for the opportunity to visit with you this evening. We'd like to highlight some key points that were included in our proposal and, of course, answer any questions that you may have. First and foremost, I think you probably want to hear from and talk to the project manager for this engagement. So I'm going to ask Lynn Barbosa, who will be your executive recruiter, to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her background. Lynn?
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much, Mayor and Council. Good evening. We appreciate the opportunity to present a project outline for you and hopefully partner with the City of Kyle in the search for your new city manager. My name, as Jennifer mentioned, is Lynn Barbosa. I have 27 years of local government experience. I worked for the City of Las Vegas in Nevada throughout my career. Started out in municipal court and worked in the Office of Communications, the City Council office, and then ultimately the Department of Human Resources for my last 12 years. The last 5 years of my time with the City of Las Vegas, I was managing the talent acquisition group. So I was also handling my own executive search load. And while with the city, I handled about 30 executive level searches, including city manager, deputy director, director, fire chief, chief financial officer, chief information officer. So that's during my career with the city. I retired in 2018 and joined the SGR team as a facilitator in the leadership development area under Mike Mowry. And I assisted with council retreats. I did some training videos, did a lot of in-person training with Mike. And then in the last 2 years, I moved over to executive search. And in that time, I've handled about 20 plus executive level searches for SGR in 8 different states: Minnesota, Texas, Washington, Oregon, South Dakota, Arizona, New Mexico. And I've handled city manager, director, several in Texas, as I mentioned, done Castroville, Nassau Bay, Santa Fe. Most recently did a search in Alaska for the city of Ketchikan for their city manager. So I've worked with cities varying in size from small, medium to large. And that's a little bit about my background. My undergraduate is in workforce education. And that really is something I love to do and is the reason initially I went into the leadership development side, but I love executive search as well. So thank you for allowing me to introduce myself.
Thank you so much, Lynn. As we go to the next slide, it is an overview of our projected project schedule. We realize this is probably difficult to read, but it is included in your proposal on page 13. Our process from the time we execute a contract takes about 15 weeks from the time that we review a position profile brochure with you. We estimate the process takes about 12 weeks. So I'll go to the next slide and give you a high-level overview of our methodology and our process, which is included starting on page 5 of your proposal packet as well. So very similar to many other recruitment firms, we believe that the most important element of initiating an executive recruitment is understanding the profile of the person that you are looking for and really understanding the community and the community's priorities. And so to that end, Lynn will come and be on site, spend time in Kyle, meeting with each of you individually, meeting with staff, meeting with community stakeholders, neighborhood groups, whomever you all identify are people in the community that we need to talk to that have reliable and important input into who the next city manager of Kyle should be. We'll take all of that information along with data and statistics and photos of your community, put together that position profile brochure, which of course we will review with you. You will sign off on that. And that will be the marketing collateral that we utilize to advertise this position. It's an important piece because it's showcasing your community and it's communicating to people that may not know Kyle, Texas, who and what Kyle, Texas is about. And so it's an incredibly important initial step in our process. From there, we will advertise the position through all of those typical channels, ICMA, TCMA, NFPBA. Of course, we believe at SGR that one of the advantages to partnering with us is our network. We currently have an opt-in subscriber network of more than 45,000 people in local government that are interested in hearing about job opportunities and other topical information from SGR. And so the Kyle, Texas City Manager job posting will go out to those 45,000 people as part of our regular information updates and newsletters. We will also send a targeted job alert to about 5,900 people who are specifically interested in hearing about city manager opportunities. These are people, again, that follow SGR and want to understand what the topics and trends are in local government. And so they will get a specific job alert about the Kyle, Texas city management opportunity. We typically leave a position posted for about 30 days. We want it in the market so that it's getting plenty of, it's being seen by candidates. While it's open, while the position's posted, Lynn is going to be doing passive candidate outreach. She's going to be talking with her network about this opportunity and specifically targeting people that she believes are a good match based on the articulated profile that you all are looking for. And so not only do we put it out there for those that are currently in the job market, but we also go after those passive candidates that may or may not think they want to look for their next opportunity. But we want to make sure that they're aware of this opportunity and also encourage them to promote this opportunity through their networks. Position closes, we will do a triage of every single person that applies. Our approach is slightly different in that we present to the City Council every single person who applies for the position. We want you to be aware of who that candidate pool is, whether they are qualified or not. It could be that there are people in your community that apply for the position or know people that have applied for the position. And so we want you to have that awareness of who those applicants are. However, we present the applicants to you in a triaged fashion. So you will see when we'll spend the most time on the candidates that are most highly qualified. And Lynn will walk you through that process and present those candidates to you and work with you to narrow the field down to the semifinalist level, which are typically about 12 people, no more than 12 people at this point in the process. And so at that point, we then, similar to other firms do, we will do an initial media search. We will want to understand if there's anything in those 12 people's backgrounds that are not consistent with the values of your community or something that may cause alarm future down the road. We want to be aware of those things early on in the process. The other element that we utilize at this point is an online interview. Before you invest a ton of time in these individuals, you need to understand how they communicate, how they represent themselves, how they present themselves. And so we do that through an online interview process. It's a one-way interview. Candidates don't generally like it, but it's a good opportunity for you to see how one communicates and present themselves. We also, at this point, will have those semifinalists complete a written questionnaire. These questions are very narrative in nature. We want to understand how they think, how they process information, their leadership style, so that we can begin to see where that alignment comes in with the profile of the person that you have articulated you are looking for. We will then meet with you again to present all of that information and cull that field down further to about a half a dozen finalists. These finalists are going to be the people that we spend the most time on, really at this point determining who is the best fit and the best match for Kyle, Texas. At this point, all of these folks can do the job from a technical and experiential standpoint, but our role at this stage of the process is to really evaluate who is a good match for your community. And in order to do that, obviously we bring them in for in-person interviews. Lynn will facilitate that process and manage all of those logistics for you. She will be on site. We can set up any number of interview structures, from community panels to individual conversations, informal coffees, meet and greets, really whatever works best for your community to get to know candidates is how we like to run that interview process. We also, at this point, will have already completed and presented to you a stage 2 media search, which evaluates all of the social media of these candidates, again, to make sure that they're not living some other life in social media than who they're presenting themselves to be. We will also do a comprehensive background investigation and check references. And so all of that due diligence will have been done by the time you are meeting in person with these individuals. And then, of course, through that interview process, Lynn will work with you to help you determine, once you identify your final candidate, if you need assistance with contract negotiations or anything like that. Our job is not complete until you have made a hire and you have a contract in place and somebody is ready to come on and join your team. So that is the overview of our methodology. If we could go to the next slide, I'd like to just touch on our company and who we are. We've been in business since 1999, and we are incorporated in Texas in 2002 to really facilitate innovation and innovative leadership in local government. Our headquarters is in the DFW area. We have virtual offices in 9 other states, and we are a full service local government consulting firm. In addition to executive recruitment, we also offer leadership development and training, interim management, consulting, strategic visioning, executive coaching, and many other needs of local governments. Many of us have, as Lynn, have a background in local government. Myself, I was a city manager in Texas for about 10 years. And so we really work to understand the needs of local government and do anything that we can to address those needs. On the next slide, this will give you, if you can see the map on the next slide, this gives you an idea of where we work and who we work with. We have over 700 clients in 47 states via all of our business functions. And I can tell you that there is probably not another firm that has the reach in Texas that SGR has. In the last 5 years, we've done nearly 70 city manager recruitments just in the state of Texas. And so those are ranging in size from large to small communities. For instance, right now we are currently engaged to complete the city administrator search in Conroe, Texas. We are also working on the city manager search for Laredo, Texas. And so, as Lynn alluded to, we work in many different sizes of communities, and we often tailor our services to meet the needs of those communities specifically. I'll turn it back over to Lynn to cover the next slide relative to what we believe are some keys to a successful search. Lynn?
Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, so on the slide, we've highlighted, there's so much that's part of this process, right? It's a 12-week process with a lot of different layers, but we've really distilled it down in this slide to the top 5 keys to a successful search. And as Jennifer mentioned, understanding the unique culture, needs, and desires of the city of Kyle, the organization itself, as well as the community, is key. I would say from doing a number of searches, having the level of engagement from all of you at that beginning stage, and identifying the right stakeholders who will assist us in really detailing out the ideal candidate characteristics is key to the rest of the search being successful. So that's first and foremost. We mentioned that, as you see on number 2, SGR has a dynamic state-of-the-art talent marketing program. Jennifer went over the numbers, and I know one of the council members had a question about this. We have the 45,000 opt-in subscribers. We have the 6,000 that are specifically management professionals who have opted into job alerts for management positions in local government. We have our social media network, which is extensive. LinkedIn alone, we have over 12,000 followers. My network is over 3,000 on LinkedIn. So it is a nationwide net that we cast to have the opportunity to present you with those most highly qualified candidates. So that network on top of what I'll be doing in terms of passive candidate sourcing, which Jennifer mentioned, is what will produce that really high caliber candidate pool for you. Number 3, candidate vetting that prevents surprises and ensures in-depth understanding. Jennifer touched on this as she went through the recruitment methodology. That includes the media searches, which are extremely detailed and are determined by where the person has lived and worked in all different platforms, both at the stage 1 and stage 2, with stage 2 being just as thorough of a background media search check as we find is available. We also do a full background check, and we do reference checks, and we are also able to offer a customized approach or step if you wanted to do any sort of leadership assessment tool. So we use DISC, or if there's a preferred tool that you all have utilized in the past, we will make that part of the process as well. And that's part of that candidate vetting. In addition to the multiple levels of interviews, starting with me doing a video interview with our most highly qualified candidates from the very beginning before I present to you. And then number 4, candidate understanding of the organization and community. That is part of that initial research process where I'm gaining information not only about the ideal candidate characteristics, but also the city of Kyle and the community and what would be of interest to prospective candidates. As any of you likely know, if you're looking for a new opportunity, you really want to understand what would that mean for me? What would that mean for my family, my career? And so we're understanding that at the very beginning so that that communication with our candidates is very thorough. And in some cases, it may not work. And we're finding that out at the beginning of the process. If it doesn't represent a fit for the candidate, we're sharing that information with them very early on. And then number 5, a process that is smooth, seamless, and user-friendly for both candidates and the client. And this, I would say, is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm really proud of the relationships I've established with my candidates and my clients throughout the years. It is definitely a balance. It's certainly meeting the needs of the city, but it's also really developing that relationship and understanding, what our candidates are looking for, if this represents an opportunity that is a good match or not, and just getting to know them as people as well, as a prospective candidate. So those are the keys to our successful search that's, been fine-tuned over the years. And I know we'll ask for questions at the end, but that is a high-level overview of what has brought us success in our search activity in the past.
Thank you, Lynn. We'll go to the next slide and get this wrapped up here shortly. I did want to touch on the importance of marketing. Obviously, anytime you are doing any kind of recruitment, it's a matter of ensuring that those in the job market and as well as those passive candidates have an opportunity to learn about the opportunity. And so you may know that the use of social media for recruitment has grown over 50% in the last 5 years, and more than 80% of job seekers utilize social media in their job search. And so we really place an emphasis on social media as part of our marketing outreach for the position, to both solicit high potential candidates and then to spread the word to others who may not be candidates but know of other high potential candidates that could be a good match for this position. So the last slide here, I will just quickly summarize for you why we think SGR is a great fit for this engagement to partner with you all. We think we are one of the premier organizations, not only in the state of Texas, but in the nation, that understands local government, specifically the issues, the challenges, best practices. And we are constantly seeking solutions to partner with our clients and local governments to help them solve today's problems and challenges. As I've mentioned, we've walked in your shoes, we've sat in your chairs, and we understand the challenges that communities in our country are facing today. As I mentioned previously, we have a very strong opt-in subscriber base who want to know what SGR is thinking and saying about trends in local government. And those 45,000 people hear from us once a week and are connected in via our email newsletter. We also have those other individuals that want to specifically get those SGR job postings. There's about almost 5,900, almost 6,000 people who specifically want to hear about city management opportunities. And so they will get a personalized email about this opportunity with that marketing collateral that I talked about earlier. And then finally, we pursue a diverse field of candidates. We believe it's important for the field of candidates to reflect the diversity of your community. And so we will do specific outreach to historically underrepresented folks in the profession to ensure that they're aware of the opportunity and are equally represented in the candidate pool as well. And with that, we will thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight and share with you a little bit about why we think SGR is the right partner for you in your city management selection process. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant at this time? All right, I'm going to move us into executive session now, if there are no objections. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics. 1, pending or contemplated litigation or seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to section 551.071, consult with legal counsel regarding executive search firm professional services agreement terms. 3, personnel matters pursuant to section 551.074, the appointment and employment of the city manager. Back to order. There was no action taken during executive session. There will be no action taken now. Following item is to take action on items discussed in executive session. At this time, I'll open the floor back up. If any of the council members have any further questions for the applicants. Councilmember Flores-Kell.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait till they come on. And I just have a question, some questions for Affion.
Yes.
Hi, thank you, and thank you for taking the time to meet with us. I appreciate it. Can you tell me how many employees you guys have with your company?
We have 5 full-time employees.
Thank you. What kind of travel fees do you incur during these kind of consulting jobs?
Well, our proposal is all inclusive of travel. So you'll see no travel fees for any of Affion people to perform the search. The only thing that's outside of the fee is the search, is the travel fee for any candidates that you bring from out of town.
So yeah, can you explain that travel fee to me?
For the candidates?
Well, I think there is a fee in the proposal that discusses travel. It says additional fees, and then underneath it, it does talk about travel fees. But you're saying only for candidates, is that correct?
Correct. So in other words, if I'm down there facilitating stakeholder meetings, you guys don't get any additional fees for that. The only fees that you'll see that are additional outside of our proposed price are, we just don't know how many candidates you're going to want to bring in and where they're going to be from, so we can't capture that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then, can you tell me where is the first? It's I guess we're in Texas, and it looks like you've done College Station and Frisco, and I think we've all been there, and we love Frisco. So when you interviewed for the Frisco City Manager, do you happen to know off the top of your head how far out applications came from?
I mean, we had people from California, apply for that role. There was a lot of interest in the state, but we had people from California, people from the East Coast, I think everywhere. I think, I don't know the breakdown offhand, but I remember I provided it for them.
Okay, because I think one of your responses was you're going to post it from top to bottom, but I just was kind of curious what is included in top to bottom.
Yeah, so I think the best way to say that is, listen, the recruiting world's changed a lot over the last 5 to 10 years. The tools that are used. There's 2 things. We're looking for passive candidates and active candidates. So the active candidates are the people that are currently out there looking for opportunities. And, we have a database that we have over 10,000 people in our database, and we have access to, data is cheap and easy to get now in terms of access to people. It really comes down for us to be actively recruiting. So if you said, hey, listen, we would like for somebody that has experience with a specific skill set. The Austin Metroplex area has grown, but there have been other areas of the country that have grown like that. So you could look at Phoenix and you could say, hey, listen, there's a lot of similarities for where Kyle is in its growth mode to where Gilbert, Arizona was 15 years ago, right? So, that's when I look at top to bottom, from A to Z, we're looking at people across the country. We're looking at organizations that have been where you guys have been, where you're going, and looking at folks that have been in leadership roles in those things. So that's what I mean when I say that.
Okay, thank you. In your objectives and approach, I see a number 2 is input from key decision makers. So with your experience with the city of Kyle, who would you say, do you think are the key decision makers in this process?
Were you the council? You guys are the key decision makers. This is ultimately your hire.
Okay. And I think that is the only questions I have. Thank you.
Other questions, Councilmember Parsley?
Thank you.
Thank you. How many times have you failed to meet the timeline set on the contract?
Is that to me?
Yes, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Failed to meet the timeline set on the contract. I don't know that I could quantify that and say the timeline. We've had circumstances where we've presented some candidates, or we've had changes in elections. For example, we did a search one time for a city manager that they had an election cycle that kind of came through during the city manager search, council changed, we slid the timeline based on that. But we're really pretty steadfast on that 30 days posting, 45 days later being here with your candidates. So most of the slide or the creep that we have in our search work is due to calendaring of our clients.
Okay, thank you. And then, have you ever gotten a city to try to claim that guarantee for not getting qualified or expected candidate?
Our guarantee is for if we place a candidate, that they will fulfill their role for 2 years, and if not, then we go back out and do the search. We've done that maybe 2 or 3 times since 2009.
Since 2009, you said? Okay.
Yes. And so that's if a candidate, our guarantee is for 2 years. So if a candidate leaves within that 2 years, we will re-engage and redo the search for that.
Okay, that's
at no
it for
additional
me.
fee.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Zuniga.
Hello, sir. I just had 2 quick questions. First one is, how many in-person, one-on-one interviews do you do with your top candidates, or kind of like during the screening? Like, do you do some early ones and then revisit at the later top selection a few? And then the other question is, do you do references with past employees or past city staff that has worked with that candidate that you're considering? Because it's important to know the relationship, the teamwork that person had in his previous job. I think that's a very big criteria that we'd like to know. How did he get along? What would his coworkers have to say? Like, those would be big criteria for me.
Sure, two great questions. So the answer to the first one is face-to-face interviews with candidates is not as often as it once was. I mean, truthfully, this is what we consider face-to-face nowadays. It's easier for the candidates. It's easier to kind of get to know them. So they will go through 3 rounds of interviews with Affion between the recruiting team and myself. So all of those are either Zoom or phone calls, or if we're, if I happen to be in a location where they are, then I do those face-to-face by all means. The second question is, sure. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you believe in Kevin Bacon's 6 degrees of separation, the public sector is like 3. So, I've been based since 2005. There's it's very easy to make connections for people that have been in other cities and that. So at a bare minimum, our reference checking, we ask every candidate to provide us 3 reference checks. One is somebody that they worked for, one is a peer, and one is a subordinate. So there are 3 reference checks done on every candidate. Now they're provided to us by the candidate, but by all means, I mean, I think that's why we stay strictly in the public sector space, and why we don't do anything outside of local government is because, that is our network. That's where we know, that's where we have a comfort level. So we talk with people in cities all the time. The chances that I know your candidate pool is, and I don't know who they are, but within a degree or so, I'll know where they've worked, or I'll know somebody that's worked there and be able to do that reference check. So for sure, that's part of what we do every time.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Tobias.
All right. We'll treat this as a job interview for both. So let me start with Ms. Barbosa. This is the question. All of us here on our dais, we really love our city, and we respect our community very, very well. We want the best for our community. Ms. Barbosa, why should we choose your firm, and what can you go above and beyond to make sure that we have the right candidate?
Yes, well, thank you, council member, for that question. Why the city of Kyle should choose SGR? We've highlighted some of the reasons in our initial presentation, but just to kind of provide that at a high level, it would be, I think a lot of the value we bring is our database. More than 45,000 opt-in subscribers. So we're casting that wide net nationally. So it's not only for prospective city manager candidates, but it's for people who can refer candidates to us as well. So just by virtue of that number, we're getting the word out and we're getting a higher level of exposure for the city of Kyle. In addition to that, we have the job alerts. These are the very customized job notification that prospective candidates have filled out regarding a particular position, in this case, city manager. And we have 6,000 in that group. And then we have our social media, our extensive network, and that's over and above more than 12,000 subscribers just on LinkedIn. So not to flood you with all those numbers again, but that's a lot of the value we bring is casting that wide net so that you have the best chance of capturing that candidate pool that's going to contain the individual that represents the best fit. I understand that you love your community. So the second part of your question, council member, I take a lot of pride in getting to know not only members of the council, but the community itself, as far as understanding what the unique challenges are, what will appeal to candidates, as I mentioned earlier, but also, what might represent, a challenge for them professionally. Some of the exciting things going on in Kyle, I mean, obviously, the recent election, Proposition A, it would be my goal and to really understand not only those things, but other upcoming initiatives and projects that are very unique to the community. Also your demographics, high minority, over 45% based on what I reviewed and my research revealed, of a Hispanic population. That's a demographic I'm really used to working with from the city of Las Vegas and where I'm located now too. I'm actually based in Southern California. So I'm familiar and very comfortable with the demographics of your population, and I will gain a really thorough understanding of what makes Kyle so unique and appealing to candidates.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Same thing, Mr. Riley. Again, we really care about our community here. We really want to get a city manager that could really see the diversity, as she says, into not only, we want to be able to have a city manager that could also not only accept the challenges that we have, but also flourish on the accomplishments and to continue with those. So my question again to you would be the same thing. Why should we pick your firm, and what can you go above and beyond to make sure we have the right candidate for our city, for the city manager?
Sure. Well, listen, I have purposely not grown my company to be a volume producer of recruitments. We're very customized. I mean, I think if you look through what we do, if you look to the north, Austin is a client of ours. I mean, we've done 25 searches for the city of Austin. One of the reasons that we've done that much work with them is obviously, one, they're a big city and they're growing, but two, is because we really plug into the community and get to know the community. So that's what I do. That's why I love this work, and that's why that's why I stay hands-on with all of our city management recruitments, because I want to make sure that I understand what the community needs are, what are the challenges, what are the foreseen challenges right now, and maybe be able to bring some guidance about some other communities that we've worked in that maybe have shared in that same thing, and bring those to light so that we can use our experiences to help you. So from my standpoint, it's one of the reasons why I stay very hands-on in every recruitment for city managers. There are other recruitments that our recruiting team handles much more, but this is the biggest decision that you'll make as a council member. You'll pass other budgets. You'll do a lot of other things, but this is critical for you as a council member and for your city. As far as a track record on diversity, equity, and inclusion, I mean, we work in Texas a lot. We work a lot with the diverse community. San Antonio is a large client of ours. We're doing work down there right now. We're doing work at SAW, San Antonio Water System. So we certainly have experience in working with the Hispanic community. And so from my standpoint, that's why I do this work. That's why I love this work. And that's why I stay plugged into your community. And I'll be the guy on the ground doing that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I just want to say thank you to the applicants who came, as well as those who submitted, to echo Mr. Hendrix's remarks. I think you are both great companies. I appreciate the feedback that we have received. For myself, I would like to make a motion to direct the city manager to engage in a contract negotiation with the executive search firm Affion.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 4-1. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.